Impact. We are so happy that you're here with us today. A couple things before we get started. Just a reminder that this is going to be our schedule going forward, so mark your calendars. Sundays, 4:30, Impact on Zoom. Wednesdays, Impact Home at 6:30. And Fridays, our Instagram Live at 7:15. Also, don't forget to follow us on Instagram at Impact High and Impact 678. That's all for now, so let's get our hearts ready as we go into a time of worship.
You are here, you're moving in our midst. I worship you, I worship you. You are here, you're working in this place. I worship you, I worship you. You are here, you're moving in our midst. Oh, I worship you, I worship you. You are here, you're moving in this place. I worship you, I worship you. Waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. Waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. Oh, it's who you are. It's who you are, who you are. You are here, you're touching every heart. Oh, I worship you, I worship you. You are here, you're healing every heart. God, I worship you, I worship you. You are here, you're turning lives around. Oh, I worship you, I worship you. You are here, you're mending every heart. Oh, I worship you, I worship you. Waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. Waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. 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 Oh, it's who you are. That is who you are. That is who you are. That is who you are. It's who you are. Even when I don't see it, you're working. Even when I don't feel it, you're working. You never stop working. You never stop working. Even when I don't see it, you're working. Even when I can't feel it, you're working. You never stop working. You never stop working. Even when I don't see it, you're working. And even when I don't feel it, you're working. You never stop. It's who you are. Teach my eyes to see, teach my ears to hear the goodness of you, God. Goodness of you, God. It's who you are. It's who you are. Waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. Waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, it's who you are. We're creation, suddenly articulate, with 1,000 tongues to lift one cry. From north and south, from east to west, we'd hear Christ be magnified. Were the whole earth echoing his imminence, his name would burst from sea and sky. From rivers to the mountain tops, we'd hear Christ be magnified. Singing, oh, Christ be magnified. Let his praise arise. Oh, Christ be magnified in me. And oh, Christ be magnified at the altar of my life. Christ be magnified in me. When every creature finds its inmost melody, in every human heart its native cry, oh, in one enraptured hymn of praise, we'd sing Christ be magnified. We're singing, oh, Christ be magnified. Let his praise arise. Oh, Christ be magnified in me. And oh, Christ be magnified from the altar of my life. Oh, Christ be magnified in me. Be magnified, be glorified in me. Be magnified, be lifted high in me. Oh, be magnified, be glorified in me, God. I won't bow down to idols, I'll stand strong and worship you. If it puts me in the fire, I'll rejoice 'cause you're there too. I won't be formed by feelings, I hold fast to what is true. If the cross brings transformation, then I'll be crucified with you. 'Cause death is just a doorway into Christ be magnified in me. Oh, be magnified in me, in me, in me. Be lifted high, be glorified in me. Christ be magnified in me.
What's up, Impact? Hey, I am so pumped up to share a message with you today. I had to get outside. I had to get outside a little bit because I was feeling a little too cooped up inside, which I'm sure most of you can relate with. But hey, I got a message that I honestly believe will help remind us that we are still called by God to get the good news out, even if we are stuck at home. And so if you got your Bible, let's open up Luke chapter 7, verse 40-ish. And we're going to kind of jump in and we're going to read the story. And ultimately, what I want you to take away from this, I don't have 3 points of how to be happier or how to give more kindness, even though we should be doing that. What I really want you to do is open your hearts and hear how we are still able to fulfill God's calling on our lives, no matter what the circumstances are. And in this story, the context is Jesus is going house to house. He is meeting with people. He is hanging out with religious people, and he is hanging out with sinners. And so he's going on and hanging out, and he approaches one man named Simon, not to be confused with Simon Peter, who was one of his disciples, but a Pharisee, a religious man, a man with a reputation around town for being a churchgoer. And he's talking to him, and we pick up right here. And Jesus says, Simon, I have to tell you something. This is verse 40. Tell me, teacher, he said. 2 people owed money to a certain moneylender. One owed him 500 denarii and the other 50. Neither of them had the money to pay him back. So he forgave the debts of both. Now, which of them will love him more? Simon replied, I suppose the one who had the bigger debt forgiven. You have judged correctly, Jesus said. Then he turned toward the woman, still talking to Simon. Now he's facing Simon, but he turned towards a woman who was there, who was a sinner, who was, many believe was a prostitute. Turned toward the woman. Said, do you see this woman? And I want to stop right there because I feel like that is so prophetically speaking to us today, to the church in general, but to you guys, to you Impact students. Now, some of us might be a little used to church, and I'll join the party and say, man, I'll be one of the first ones to say, man, I miss being in church. I miss going to youth group. I miss seeing and being around people. I miss the community, and I find myself saying these crazy prayers of Jesus, deliver us, or God, come back and get us out of here. Just let the rapture happen. I don't know. Get rid of Corona so I can go back to my normal life, so I can go back to my normal job. And yet I believe that God is using this time. I don't think he sent COVID. I don't think he did anything like that. But I know that God uses everything for good. And so I honestly think he's trying to send a wake-up call to each of us. He is trying to send a wake-up call to you and saying, hey, don't forget about what you're called to do. One, you are called to draw close to God. Like, we are all called to go out on a mission and share the gospel, and we'll get to that in a second. But I want to reinforce that your first calling is to be close to Jesus, to know the Father, to pray, to be in relationship, to have that close, tight-knit relationship. The way a father would with a child, the way best friends do, the way that we need to be close and intimate with God, the way somebody who's married would be with their spouse. And that is what we're called first and foremost, because we can go out there and do all kinds of works, but if we don't have the understanding that God is madly in love with us, then we're missing the point. If we're not doing it from a point and a standpoint from saying, God, I am so in love with you, therefore I'll go out and do some of this stuff. That we need to understand that that is the first point of our calling. So as we're being quarantined, as we're in shelter in place, as we're stuck at home, make use of the time. Make use of it and say, hey, I will come out of this thing closer to God than I've ever been. I'll come out of this thing more prayed up. I'll come out of this thing more filled with faith. I'll come out of this thing ready to go and change the world. As soon as they say shelter in place is over, I'm going to be out there saying, hey, I know more about God today than I did before we went into it. And because of that you will stay right in line with what God is calling you to do, but you'll be filled with boldness. I am praying that each and every single one of you gets filled even more so with the Spirit, that you have a greater understanding of His love, that you have a greater understanding of what it means to walk in His will, that you are filled with joy and love and peace, so that when you come out of this, you're not saying, oh, finally, I can go back to my normal life. But you come out of this saying, finally, I can go and personally exhibit and give out the love that God has filled me with during this time of quarantine. And secondly, you guys, the part in the story I really want you to focus on is Jesus was talking to Simon, who was a religious person. Let's pretend for a second that Jesus was talking to us, the church, to us, Impact Youth, to you, the individual Christian who's trying to follow Jesus, but maybe is being a little selfish in this time. And He's saying, Simon, don't forget what we're called to do. I'm still going to talk to you, but I'm going to turn my body to this woman who was a prostitute, to the broken, to the hurting, to the one that needs help the most, to the one who needs even more forgiveness than you. And I don't think, and I don't want you to feel like, oh, he's beating me up, or oh, I don't want to be that religious person that only thinks of myself. But I almost feel like Jesus was prophetically speaking to this moment, saying, hey, as I turn, I'm not turning my back to you as a sign of disrespect, but in fact, I'm showing you the direction you should be looking in. I'm showing you who you should be looking at. I'm showing you who you need to go out and reach and spread the love. I'm giving you an example of where your eyes need to be fixed. And so I know, and I want you to know that the second part of your calling is to look out at the lost and broken. And I'm telling you right now, the lost and broken, they might even be in your own household, but they're probably in your community. They're in your neighborhood. A lot of times we feel like, oh, the lost and broken, what can I do for the homeless? And that's good and that's important. But as we look so far ahead, we miss what's right in front of us. Jesus turned to the woman who was right in front of Simon. Jesus is turning and looking at the hurting, broken world that's right in front of your face. That's right on your phone screen. And maybe this all looks different for us as we try and navigate how we spread the gospel at this time when we can't actually come within 6 feet of anybody else. But don't overlook that you have a platform. If you're watching this, that means you're watching it online. And you're probably watching it on YouTube or Instagram, which means that you have a platform to share your voice, to share your testimony, to share your story of what God has done in your life with the hundreds of friends that you have on your media platforms. And I don't want to just hit you over the head with this. I don't want you to feel like, oh, you're just beating me up. Nah, what I'm saying is we need to recognize the time that we are living in. And this is an amazing time that we are living in. I was talking to my parents the other day. We do these weekly Zoom Bible studies with some of my family, and my dad gives a devotional. And so we're talking afterward, and my mom there, and they're talking about what they've been doing and how they really feel like God's been calling them to wake up and to realign their household, to reestablish their faith, to reestablish their marriage as one that serves God fully and 100%. And as they're talking, they start to get a little choked up. And it's so normal for my mom. Anytime she talks about God, she just starts crying. But my dad, he's not much of a crier. And yet, as he's talking, he just kind of, you see his tears kind of start to well up. And he laughs. He laughs and kind of just like, ugh. And he's there at that emotional brink. And it was this sense of God saying, hey, my hand is still on you. You may have done so much bad in your past. In fact, you might have just messed up yesterday. You might have just messed up right before you saw this video. You might have just done something that you regret. But God's saying, hey, if you're alive, I'm not done. And my dad had this sense of urgency. Every time I talk with him, he's just like, we have to draw closer to God. We have to. The time's coming. He's coming back. And I'm not saying that to scare anybody. And I don't know when God's coming back. I don't know when our time to go to heaven is. But what I do know is that every day we are getting a little bit closer to spending an eternity in heaven with him. But man, it's exciting to know that even when the world is trying to shut down and give off a sense of hopelessness, Jesus comes in and says, hey, let me remind you that I'm still in control, but let me remind you that my hand is still on your life. You hear that dog barking? I love it. I love it. I love that we can be outside sharing the gospel while there's wind and animals, and I love that we're all at home and we can do this. And I'm going to end with this story. And my family, my brother called me the other day and he said, man, I got to tell you about this dream that I had. And he's telling me this dream, and he said, I went to bed and I felt the need to pray, so I prayed. And I said, God, if you're really listening, give me a dream. So he went to bed and woke up the next morning. He's like, Christian, he's like, during the night, he's like, I had this dream that this snake was trying to attack me. And then this other snake, who I knew was God, came up and he ate the bad snake. But before he ate him, he said, these are my people, and I'm protecting them. And I'm their defender. And he woke up, and he was sharing that with me. My brother's 16 years old, and he was just like, I know God's got me. So I want you to know that it doesn't matter what we face, God's got you. God's got your life in his hands, and he's ready to give you more of his spirit. He's ready to fill you with more of his love. He's ready to fill you more with his passion. All you need to do is respond and say, yes, God. And as you do that, he's ready to send you out and say, hey, start using all your platforms to spread this good news. Make the time we're in work for you and spread the gospel of Jesus. And maybe that means picking up your phone and sending a text to one of your friends that don't believe, or maybe that's calling a family member, maybe that's creating an Instagram or a social media post and sharing just a little part of your testimony, but saying Jesus is so good, and here's why. I want to encourage you guys to do that, as I'm encouraging myself to do the very same thing. And maybe you're watching this and you're like, hey, I don't know about this Jesus yet, but what you're saying, I'd like to be filled with some love and peace and hope, and I'm looking for something to save me. Well, my friend, you are in luck, because God